The river calf sparkled that night, a Manhattan postcard in motion. The skyline shimmered across the water, candlelight bouncing off crystal glasses. Lauren Hayes sat across from her husband, Cole Mercer, trying to believe this dinner was about love. He'd been distant for weeks, but tonight, he'd booked their favorite table by the window, the one where he once promised her forever. She was 6 months pregnant, her hand resting protectively over her belly, hoping he would finally see her again, not as a burden, but as his wife. Cole smiled faintly, the kind of corporate smile he used on investors. "I wanted tonight to be special," he said, signaling the waiter with a slight wave. A silver tray appeared between them, carrying a Tiffany blue box tied with silk ribbon. Lauren's heart leapt. Maybe it was a bracelet, a gesture of love after all this silence. Her fingers trembled as she untied the ribbon. Inside wasn't jewelry. It was a folder, embossed with Mercer Flow's logo. For a second, her brain refused to read the words. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The sound in the restaurant faded. All she could hear was the low hum of her own pulse. Cole kept his tone level, almost polite. "It's best to do this quietly, Lauren. I'll make sure you're comfortable. This isn't personal. Just business." Her throat burned. "Business? I'm carrying your child." He leaned back, unbothered. "And that's exactly why I'm giving you this now, before emotions cloud logic. The company's going public next week. I can't have distractions." A few tables away, a group of investors whispered, phones subtly raised. Cole wanted them to see. He wanted to make it public humiliation. Lauren pushed the folder back toward him. "You're divorcing your pregnant wife on our anniversary?" He shrugged. "Timing's never perfect." "When?" Her stomach twisted. Every promise, every laugh, every night he said, "I love you," now felt like theater. The man across from her wasn't her husband. He was a stranger in a designer suit, cold as the champagne chilling beside them. A contraction of stress hit hard. She gasped, clutching the table. The waiter froze mid-step. Cole's eyes flickered. Not concern, but annoyance. "Don't make a scene," he hissed, voice low. Lauren rose unsteadily, the city spinning behind her. Outside, flashes exploded from paparazzi cameras. Someone shouted her name. Her heel snapped on the cobblestone, but she kept walking, clutching the Tiffany box like a cruel joke. In the back seat of the Uber, tears streaked her face as she stared at the divorce papers. Her hands trembled over her stomach. The baby kicked once, sharp, strong, alive. And in that fragile heartbeat, a memory surfaced. A phone number she'd sworn never to dial again. Her estranged father, Richard Hale, the billionaire who'd disowned her years ago for marrying Cole. Her voice cracked as she whispered to herself, "Maybe it's time." She opened her phone, hovered over the number, and pressed call. The line rang once, then a familiar voice answered, calm and steady. "I was wondering when you'd need me again, Lauren." Her father had been waiting. The city was half asleep when Lauren's call went through. Rain slicked the asphalt, turning the streets into mirrors of cold light. On the other end, a voice she hadn't heard in years. Deep, composed, and unmistakably him, said her name. "Lauren." For a moment, she couldn't speak. Her throat tightened with memories. Slammed doors, harsh words, the day he told her to leave his home and learn the value of independence. She'd sworn never to depend on Richard Hale again, but here she was, 6 months pregnant, shaking in the back of an Uber, with nothing but divorce papers in her lap. "Dad," she whispered, "I need help." A pause. Then the calm, surgical tone of a man used to giving orders. "Where are you?" By the time she arrived at his Park Avenue penthouse, dawn was pressing against the skyline. The doorman hesitated before letting her in, as if wealth itself had a guard. Inside, everything smelled of polished wood and silence. A woman opened the door, tall, elegant, and much too young for her father. "You must be Lauren," she said smoothly. "I'm Emily." Lauren blinked, confused. "Emily?" "His wife," she answered with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The word hit like another slap. Richard Hale, the man who once told Lauren she'd ruined his legacy, had remarried someone barely older than his daughter. Emily stepped aside, her perfume heavy and deliberate. "He's in the study. Though I'd advise against emotional surprises, he doesn't handle stress well." Lauren ignored her and pushed the door open. Richard looked up from a leather chair, silver hair brushed back, still sharp in his tailored suit. For a long moment, father and daughter simply stared at each other. Years of anger condensed into a silence too thick to breathe through. "You look older," he said softly, almost regretful. "So do you." Her voice trembled, but she stood straight. "I didn't know who else to call." He set down his Mont Blanc pen, eyes narrowing as he noticed the manila folder in her hands. "Mercer Flow," Cole's name stamped across it. "I assume that bastard finally showed his true self," he said. Lauren nodded. "He humiliated me in public. On our anniversary." Richard's jaw tightened. "I warned you, Lauren." "Don't," she snapped, tears breaking free. "Don't tell me I should have listened. I loved him. I thought he loved me too." Bye. Something in her voice, the exhaustion, the rawness, softened him. He stood, moving slower than she remembered, and for the first time in years, she saw not the billionaire mogul, but a father uncertain of his place. "Sit," he said quietly. Lauren obeyed, pressing her hand to her belly as the baby kicked again. Richard watched the motion, his expression faltering. "You're pregnant?" "6 months." He sank into the chair opposite her, rubbing his temples. "That complicates things." "Shin?" Emily's heels clicked in the hallway. "Richard, you have a conference call in 15. He didn't turn around. "Cancel it." Her tone sharpened. "They're investors. Cancel it." Emily's smile vanished, and she walked away, her anger echoing in the marble corridor. Richard turned back to Lauren. "You're not staying at that apartment, are you?" He froze everything. "My cards, my accounts, even the insurance." Richard exhaled, fury threading through his calm. "Then you'll stay here. Emily won't like it, but that's not her decision." Lauren hesitated. "I don't want charity." "This isn't charity," he said, his voice hardening. "It's restitution. For the years I wasn't there." A knock interrupted them. Grant Lowell, his COO, holding a tablet and a cup of black coffee. "Sir, you'll want to see this." On screen, Cole Mercer on CNBC, smiling for cameras, announcing Mercer Flow's record-breaking IPO. The caption beneath him read, "New beginnings. Stronger, without distractions." Lauren's eyes filled again. "He meant me." Richard's voice went cold. "Then we'll make sure he regrets it." Outside, dawn bled gold over Manhattan, lighting the edges of skyscrapers like fire. Lauren sat back, realizing that the war for her dignity had just begun, and her father was stepping onto the battlefield. But what she didn't know was that Emily had been listening from the hallway, phone in hand, recording everything. The next morning, Manhattan looked like glass, sharp, cold, unforgiving. Lauren sat by the tall window of her father's penthouse, wrapped in one of Emily's cashmere throws, though the chill in her chest wouldn't fade. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the folder, the blue Tiffany box, and Cole's indifferent face as he told her their marriage was just business. Downstairs, Richard's voice thundered through the marble halls. He was already on the phone with attorneys, his tone clipped and lethal. "I don't care what it costs. I want everything Mercer Flow owns under review by noon." When he finally appeared, his suit immaculate, his expression unreadable, he set a folder on the table in front of her. "We start by protecting you. Nora Bennett will handle your case." Lauren's heart lurched. "Nora? She was my friend." "She still is," Richard said, though his tone suggested doubt. "She used to work for Hale Industries' legal team before you met Cole. I trust her competence, not her loyalty. You'll need both." Moments later, the elevator doors opened, and Nora stepped out. Her hair was perfectly pinned, her black coat dripping with rain. She looked like control personified. "Lauren," she greeted softly, eyes flicking to the faint bruise on Lauren's wrist from the restaurant. "You look tired." "I was served divorce papers during dinner," Lauren replied flatly. Nora's composure cracked for half a second. "He really did it?" Lauren nodded. Richard handed her a flash drive. "Prenup, if there is one. Any joint contracts?" "I want to know everything." Lauren stared down at her hands. "There is no prenup. He said we didn't need one. We were partners." Nora exhaled sharply. "Then he's trapped himself. If you contributed to the company, even by branding, pitching, or concept work, you can claim intellectual property." Lauren frowned. I worked on his early investor decks. I designed the tagline that got their Series A. That tagline alone could be worth millions, Nora said. But we'll need proof. Grant entered quietly, tablet in hand. We already found traces of her old Dropbox linked to Mercerflow's early campaign files. He renamed them, but metadata doesn't lie. Richard smiled faintly. Excellent. Lauren blinked. You're all talking like this is war. Richard looked her in the eye. It is. And I don't lose wars. Shoo. Emily's voice drifted from the hallway, dripping sarcasm. Lovely breakfast conversation, lawsuits and vengeance before coffee. She walked in, wearing silk and a faint smirk. Darling, maybe you should let professionals handle it. This kind of stress isn't healthy for the baby. Lauren's jaw clenched. I'm not fragile. Emily's eyes glinted. No? Then why come crawling back here? Richard cut in, voice razor sharp. Enough. Emily, a word, outside. 1. She left, heels striking the marble like gunfire. Nora opened her MacBook Pro, typing furiously. Lauren, do you have any communication with Cole where he acknowledges your work? Texts, emails, anything? Lauren hesitated, then opened her old iPhone. In the Notes app was a shared draft titled Mercerflow Launch Copy. Cole's comments were still there. Lauren, this is brilliant. Don't ever doubt your instincts. Nora smiled grimly. Perfect. That's acknowledgement. Grant leaned closer. There's something else. Cole's been moving funds between shell accounts in the Caymans. If he's using insider money to prop up the IPO, he's in felony territory. Richard folded his arms. We'll let him think he's untouchable. Then we'll pull the floor out from under him. Lauren looked at them all, her father, Nora, Grant, strategizing like generals. For the first time in days, she felt the faintest flicker of control return. Still, something gnawed at her. Nora, she said quietly, are you really on my side? Nora met her gaze for a long moment before replying, this time, yes, but you'll have to trust me, even when it looks like betrayal. Lauren frowned. Why would it look like betrayal? Nora closed the laptop. Because I'll be taking a meeting with Cole tonight. And for the first time, Lauren realized the line between ally and enemy was about to blur. Morning sunlight spilled across the glass towers of Hudson Yards, as if mocking Lauren's sleepless night. Somewhere inside those mirrored walls, Cole Mercer was already moving, calculating, charming, untouchable. Lauren stood by the window of her father's penthouse, clutching a mug she hadn't tasted. On the news, a cheerful anchor announced, Mercerflow's IPO valuation soars to $1.8 billion. CEO Cole Mercer expected to expand into Europe. Her stomach turned. The man who destroyed her life was being celebrated. Downstairs, Richard's team worked like a war room. Grant's deep voice carried across the marble floors as he discussed shell accounts and offshore transfers. Nora's laptop glowed with open case files, but she hadn't mentioned her meeting with Cole since yesterday. Lauren couldn't stop thinking about it. Why would Nora meet the man who humiliated her? What could she possibly gain? By late afternoon, an encrypted message arrived on Lauren's phone. It was a short text from Nora. Stay calm. Watch Hudson Yard's security feed tonight. Lauren frowned, confused. Grant looked up from his notes. What is it? Nothing. She lied. She didn't know who to trust anymore, not even her own attorney. Meanwhile, across the city, Cole stepped out of his black Mercedes and into Mercerflow HQ. He moved through the lobby like a king returning to his throne. Employees lowered their eyes. No one dared speak. He adjusted his Rolex, smoothed his tie, and entered the executive floor where a new badge waited on the reception desk. It belonged to Sienna Park, the woman Lauren once suspected but never confronted. Sienna had been Cole's assistant for 2 years, brilliant, quiet, dangerously loyal. Now, she wore a cream trench coat, a Cartier bracelet glinting on her wrist, and an access badge that read, Director of Communications. Cole smiled approvingly. Looks good on you. Sienna's voice was soft. Thank you, Cole. You always said loyalty gets rewarded. He leaned closer. It still does. Don't make me regret this. Their reflections shimmered together in the glass CEO and mistress. Ambition and betrayal merged into one perfect image. Later, in a boardroom overlooking the Hudson, Cole paced before a wall-sized screen. We need to shape the narrative before the IPO. My ex-wife is unpredictable. If she talks, investors panic. Sienna nodded, sliding a document toward him. I've already drafted a press statement. She's struggling emotionally, unfit for business decisions. Cole skimmed it, smirking. Perfect. Cold, factual, and cruel. A younger analyst in the room hesitated. Sir, isn't that a little personal? Cole's eyes hardened. Personal is what gets headlines. Headlines move stock. The analyst swallowed, pretending to take notes while secretly recording the meeting on his iPhone. He'd seen enough to know where this was heading, and who'd pay for it later. At that exact hour, Nora sat in the same building's basement cafe, sipping black coffee, pretending to scroll through emails. Her smartwatch buzzed once. Feed active. She glanced at the corner camera. Sienna and Cole appeared in frame upstairs, laughing. Nora's expression didn't change, but her fingers typed 3 words to Lauren. You were right. Back at Park Avenue, Lauren watched the Hudson Yards feed on her father's tablet. The image was grainy, but unmistakable. Cole's hand brushed Sienna's shoulder. She leaned into him, lips close to his ear. The Cartier bracelet glittered under the lights. Something inside Lauren broke quietly, without tears. Her father entered just as the screen froze on Cole's face. Richard didn't need to ask what she'd seen. Then it's confirmed, he said coldly. He never built that empire alone. Lauren looked down at her belly, voice trembling. No, he built it on me. Outside, thunder rolled over Manhattan as if the city itself was preparing for war. And somewhere in that same building, the young analyst hit send, forwarding the entire recording to an anonymous email titled truth@haleindustries.com. By morning, New York hummed with gossip. Headlines spun across every business feed. Richard Hale spotted dining at the plaza, the billionaire back from retirement. Camera flashes caught the silver streak in his hair, the unreadable look in his eyes, and beside him, a woman the tabloids called his daughter in disgrace. Lauren stared at the screen in disbelief. He told the press? She asked, clutching her phone. I didn't even want to be seen. Juan? Richard stood near the window, phone pressed to his ear, his reflection sliced by the Manhattan skyline. You were seen anyway, he said calmly. Better to control the narrative. You made me a headline, she snapped. This isn't control, it's exposure. He turned, eyes sharp. Cole made you invisible, Lauren. I'm reminding them who you are. Downstairs, black Mercedes idled as security shuffled in and out. The air inside the penthouse buzzed with energy attorneys, assistants, and PR consultants running like a campaign war room. Grant handled financials from a Montblanc notebook, while Nora organized files across 3 MacBooks. Lauren sat among them, watching her life turn into strategy slides. Every word, every move dissected for optics. The same language Cole used. Can I trust any of this? She whispered to herself. Grant overheard. You can trust facts. The rest don't bother. At noon, Richard called for silence. We move tonight. I've bought 15% of Mercer Flow's corporate debt through Shell investors. One breach, and the board answers to me. Lauren blinked. You bought into Cole's company? He nodded. You can't destroy what you don't understand. I'll tear him down from within. Nora added. We'll need to time it. The IPO roadshow hits San Francisco in 3 days. Any leak before then rattles the market too early. Lauren frowned. So we let him humiliate me a little longer. Nora's voice softened. Sometimes silence is the sharpest weapon. As if summoned by irony, a breaking alert flashed on the screen. Cole and Sienna exiting Mercer Flow HQ, surrounded by reporters. The Chiron read, Mercer and Park. The power couple. Behind the next tech unicorn. Lauren's throat burned. Power couple? Sienna smiled for the cameras, diamond earrings catching sunlight, the same earrings Lauren had once worn to Cole's first investor gala. Richard's jaw tightened. He's taunting us. Grant flipped his tablet around. We have something better than taunts. He tapped the screen bank statements, encrypted transfers. Invoices signed with Sienna's alias. Cole's using offshore funds to inflate pre-IPO valuation. If the SEC sees this, He's finished. When? Richard studied the files, calm but calculating. Not yet. Let him believe he's winning. The fall will mean more when it's public. Lauren leaned back, exhausted. You're all talking about him like a project. I just want my life back. Her father finally met her eyes. That's exactly what we're doing. Before she could answer, Emily entered wearing designer sunglasses, though they were indoors. Richard, darling, we need to talk. Privately. He sighed. Not now. Oh, it's important. Her voice dropped to sugar. Cole just called me. The room froze. Lauren stared. Why would he call you? Emily smiled faintly. He said he wanted to keep the family aligned. Apparently, your little public outing made him nervous. She looked at Richard. He's offering a meeting, discreet. Tonight. Grant's brow furrowed. That's a trap, Richard considered. Or an opportunity. Lauren's voice cracked. You can't go. You don't know what he's capable of. Pawn. He turned to her, eyes cold but resolute. Neither does he. Outside, thunderclouds gathered over Fifth Avenue. Reporters still lingered near the curb, waiting for another quote, another glimpse of the Hale Empire in motion. As the storm built above Manhattan, Richard whispered to Grant, "Prepare the documents. If he wants a meeting, he'll get one." What none of them saw was Emily, slipping into the next room, dialing Cole's number and whispering, "He took the bait." 2. The storm rolled through the night. Lightning slicing the sky above Manhattan like anger made visible. Inside the penthouse, Lauren sat on the floor of the unused nursery she'd started decorating months ago, back when she still believed in anniversaries and promises. Soft pastel wallpaper lined the walls, tiny clouds and air balloons dancing across the room. The crib she'd ordered from Fifth Avenue sat half-assembled, a screwdriver still resting on the floor. The baby clothes, washed and folded, were tucked neatly into drawers that now felt like tombs of her old life. She held one of the little onesies against her chest. The tag still read, "Newborn." She whispered to the quiet room, "You were supposed to have a father who loved you." Her phone buzzed on the carpet. A message from an unknown number. "Stop pretending. You lost. Sign the settlement and disappear." Attached was a photo of her outside the CAF last week, leaving the building with Grant. The caption below read, "How fast you moved on." Lauren's breath caught. Cole had someone following her. Her father's voice echoed faintly from down the hall as he discussed legal strategies with Grant. They were both too deep in corporate warfare to notice the tremor in her hands. She texted Nora instead. "He's watching me." Nora replied instantly, "Stay calm. He's baiting you. We'll use it." Lena. Lauren wanted to believe her, but every word from Nora felt double-edged lately. Ever since she'd admitted to meeting Cole for leverage, Lauren didn't know what side anyone was truly on. Thunder rumbled again, shaking the windows. She looked toward the nursery mirror and saw her own reflection. Eyes red, hair messy. A woman both broken and burning. She whispered, "No more." Her father appeared in the doorway. "You should rest," he said softly. She shook her head. "He's not just coming for the company. He's trying to destroy me." Richard stepped closer, his expression softening for the first time in years. "Then he'll learn that destroying a Hale is harder than it looks." She almost smiled, but something about his tone frightened her, a quiet promise that felt darker than comfort. Hours later, the rain eased into a soft drizzle. Emily returned from her meeting, wearing the same silk dress from earlier, her perfume filling the room before her words did. "Cole sends his regards," she said lightly, pouring herself a glass of champagne. "He says he's willing to negotiate privately." Richard ignored her, but Lauren's stomach twisted. "Negotiate what?" Emily sipped, eyes glinting. "He thinks you might soften if he apologizes. Maybe you still love him." The words hit like venom. "He humiliated me. He ruined everything. Why would I ever?" Emily cut her off with a shrug. "Because love makes fools of us all." She turned to leave, but something small slipped from her purse, a silver USB drive. Lauren froze. "What's that?" Emily snatched it up too quickly. "Nothing you'd understand." Grant stepped into the room at that moment, catching the tension. Emily brushed past him with a practiced smile and vanished down the hall. When she was gone, Lauren whispered, "She's working with him." "So?" Grant nodded. "We suspected. But now we can prove it. He crouched beside the crib, retrieving a tiny envelope hidden behind one of its panels. Mrs. Alvarez found this in the old mailroom. Your name's on it. Lauren tore it open. Inside was a letter dated 3 years ago, her father's will. It left 30% of Hale Industries' shares in trust to her. Richard had never mentioned it. Grant's eyes met hers. If Cole and Emily knew about this, it explains everything. Trent. Lauren felt the ground shift under her feet. Her father wasn't just fighting for revenge, he was protecting his company's future. And she was the missing piece. Outside, lightning flared again, throwing her reflection across the window, one woman holding a child's onesie, surrounded by walls painted for a life she'd never had. Somewhere across town, Cole looked out over the same storm, dialing Emily's number and saying, "Phase 2 starts now." By Friday, the sky over Manhattan turned clear and cruelly beautiful, one of those early summer mornings that made people forget storms ever existed. But for Lauren, the quiet only made her skin crawl. The calm before something worse. Grant stood in the living room, laptop open, briefing Richard on Mercer Flow's executive wellness retreat in the Hamptons that weekend. Cole's hosting his board, a few potential investors, and Sienna, he said, glancing at Lauren. It's all over social media, branded as a reset for the next chapter. Richard smirked. He's celebrating his IPO before it's even legal. Lauren crossed her arms. What if that's where he's hiding something? Those shell transfers you found, what if he's using the retreat to secure more funds? Grant nodded. Exactly my thought. He's moving accounts through limited partnerships tied to a Hamptons address. We need proof before the SEC does. Lauren frowned. And how do you plan to get it? He met her gaze, almost apologetic. By sending someone he won't expect. The words hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Later that afternoon, a black Mercedes S-Class rolled toward Sagaponack. Behind the tinted windows, Lauren sat in a cream blazer that used to hang loose but now strained slightly around her belly. She wasn't supposed to be here. Richard had forbidden it, but Grant had slipped her the access badge Sienna once used and whispered, "If you want answers, see the monster up close." The Hamptons estate rose from the dunes like arrogance made of glass. Luxury cars lined the gravel driveway. Range Rovers, Teslas, a Bentley or two. Laughter echoed from the patio, where Cole was already holding court, glass of champagne in hand. She slipped inside unnoticed, blending among the catering staff. Her pulse thudded as she adjusted her earpiece linked to Grant's feed. "You have 10 minutes, his voice said. "Camera on your necklace will record everything." In the main lounge, Cole paced before a whiteboard filled with numbers. "We need commitment before the IPO. If we delay, confidence drops." An investor raised a brow. "But the SEC audit," Cole interrupted. "Handled. My ex-wife's little tantrum isn't relevant. She's unstable, pregnant, emotional." He smiled faintly. "Sympathetic to the public, maybe, but irrelevant to us." Lauren's breath hitched. Her nails dug into her palm. Sienna entered then, radiant in a Dior dress, carrying a leather folio. "All the partnership documents are here. Cayman accounts included." Cole kissed her cheek. "Perfect timing, as always." Lauren moved closer, slipping behind a decorative wall as she watched him sign page after page, each one confirmation of financial crimes. She angled her necklace slightly, capturing the scene. Then a voice startled her from behind. "What are you doing here?" She turned to Nora. "Dressed like a guest, not an ally." "Nora?" Lauren whispered. "You said you were in the city." Nora's eyes flicked nervously toward the conference room. "Keep your voice down. Are you helping him?" "No," she whispered urgently. "I'm helping you. But you have to leave now. Emily's here." "Rannis." Before Lauren could react, a chill swept through the air. Emily entered the hallway, face cold, lips curled. "Well, isn't this poetic? My husband's ex sneaking into our event." Lauren stiffened. "Husband?" Emily smiled. "You didn't think Richard married me for love, did you? He needed protection from the same man you did." Lauren's pulse spiked. "You're working with Cole." "Always have been," Emily said sweetly. "Two empires, one goal. Take everything." Security footsteps echoed behind her. Lauren bolted, ducking through a side corridor. Grant's voice roared in her ear. Run, I've got your feed. She burst out onto the back deck just as the waves crashed against the shore. Behind her, Emily shouted, "She's got the files." Lauren ripped off the necklace, clutching the hidden memory chip inside, and sprinted for the dunes. Her shoes sank into wet sand. Her heartbeat drowned out the ocean. The headlights of a waiting SUV flashed once a signal. Grant's hand reached from the driver's seat, pulling her inside. As they sped away, Lauren gasped for breath. "Did you get it?" Grant glanced at his laptop, a grin breaking through. Every second. And Cole just signed his own downfall. Outside, the estate glowed under the moon, laughter echoing faintly behind them. But back inside the mansion, Emily picked up a phone, her voice low and deadly. She got away. Activate the next phase. 1. The next morning, the city was already awake when Lauren and Grant returned to Manhattan. Rain washed the Hamptons sand from the car tires as they pulled up near Bryant Park. She hadn't spoken the entire drive. Every mile back felt heavier, guilt, fear, and the faint pulse of the baby kicking as if sensing the chaos. Grant parked discreetly near a quiet Starbucks tucked between office towers. "This is where we meet him," he said. "Who?" Lauren asked, still dazed. "The whistleblower. Cole's data led. He reached out to me after seeing how you were treated." Inside, the coffee shop buzzed softly with the sound of laptops and espresso machines. It smelled of burnt beans and rain-soaked coats. Lauren sat in the back booth, hood pulled low, hands wrapped around a cup she didn't drink. A man slid into the seat across from her, mid-30 seconds, nervous, wearing a Mercer Flow hoodie. His name tag from the office still clung to his chest. Ethan Cho. Data Analytics. Ethan's eyes darted to Grant, then to Lauren. "You don't know me," he said quickly, "but I know what he did to you. And to all of us." Lauren studied him. "Why come forward now?" Ethan exhaled shakily. "Because last week he ordered me to reformat datasets, basically to delete retention curves that showed user drop-offs. The numbers he gave investors were lies." He slid a flash drive across the table. "Everything's on here. The fake accounts, the edited growth charts, the Slack messages where he approved it. He said, 'Do what it takes. Optics are everything.'" Grant's expression hardened. "This is enough to bury him." Ethan shook his head. "No. You'll need more. Cole's covered by NDAs, offshore shells, and Emily's legal web. But there's one more file, something personal. The recordings." Lauren frowned. "What recordings?" Ethan hesitated. "Cole records everything. Investor calls, meetings, even private conversations. He keeps backups on a private cloud, tagged by initials. There's one labeled LH. Her breath caught. "Me?" He nodded. "He bragged once, said he had insurance in case you ever turned on him. You need those files." Lauren's phone buzzed, then a new message from an unknown number. "Did you enjoy your little Hamptons trip? Hope the baby's fine." Her blood ran cold. "He knows where I am. T." Grant glanced toward the window, scanning the street. "He's bluffing. Stay calm." But Ethan looked terrified. "No, he's not. Cole has trackers, phone metadata, facial recognition through security cams. You're on every system he owns." Lauren felt the walls closing in. "Then how do we stop him?" Ethan leaned forward. "Expose him before he destroys you. There's a press contact I trust, independent journalist. She's been digging into Mercer Flow for months. Her name's Dana. She'll publish if you give her what's on that drive." Grant checked his watch. "Then we move fast. Richard's meeting with the board tomorrow morning. We drop this right before the market opens. Kill the IPO in real time." Lauren nodded, clutching the flash drive like a lifeline. As Ethan rose to leave, he said quietly, "You're not the only one he's hurt. Just be careful. Cole doesn't lose gracefully." Tommen? Minutes later, as they exited into the rain, Lauren's phone rang again, this time a voice message. Cole's voice, calm, mocking. "I hope you enjoyed your coffee. Next time, pick a better booth. Cameras in Starbucks catch everything." She froze, scanning the awning above. Tiny security lenses blinked red. Grant swore under his breath. "He's watching the feed." Lauren's grip tightened around the flash drive. "Then let him watch. she said, eyes burning. He's about to see what happens when the person he underestimated fights back. Across the street, a sleek black SUV idled, tinted windows, engine silent. Inside, Sienna Park sat in the back seat, phone in hand, whispering into her earpiece. She has the files. Do we proceed? A male voice answered coldly, yes. But make it look like an accident. The following evening, the Plaza Hotel glowed like a jewel under the Manhattan dusk, chandeliers dripping light through its golden windows. To the public, it was another elegant night for New York's elite. But to Lauren, walking through its marble halls, every glint of crystal felt like a dagger reminding her of everything she'd lost. Her father had arranged to meet her there. Someplace neutral, he'd said. Grant had tried to convince her to stay at the penthouse. Even Nora warned her the city wasn't safe after Cole's threats. But Lauren was tired of being hidden away like a victim. She wanted to face life again, even if the world still whispered behind her back. The elevator opened onto the mezzanine floor, where soft piano music filled the air. Richard was waiting, a glass of water untouched beside him. For a moment, he looked smaller. Not the billionaire mogul commanding boardrooms, but a man burdened by regret. "Lauren," he said quietly. She sat opposite him, folding her trembling hands. "Why here?" He sighed. "Because this is where I first met your mother. I thought maybe it was time to remember what love looked like before business took it from me." Lauren's throat tightened. "You mean before you pushed me away for marrying Cole?" His face twisted with guilt. "Yes." The air between them hung heavy with years of silence, sharp words, and pride that never healed. "I was wrong," Richard said finally. "I thought he was ambitious. I didn't see what he really was, a mirror of everything I hated in myself." Lauren blinked back tears. "You didn't protect me. I didn't know how," he admitted. "I built empires, but I never learned how to hold on to the people who mattered." The music from the lobby below softened into a slow jazz tune. Somewhere nearby, waiters cleared tables, the quiet rhythm of silver and glass grounding their pain in something ordinary. Richard reached across the table, his hand tentative. "I can't erase what happened, but I can help you end it. All of it. Cole, the IPO, Emily. You have to trust me one more time." Lauren hesitated before taking his hand. "I don't want revenge," she whispered. "I want peace." He nodded slowly. "Then let's earn it." Before she could reply, a woman's voice floated from the hall. Touching. Truly. Lauren turned. Emily stood by the archway, diamond earrings glittering, phone in hand. "You two look like a Hallmark card," she mocked. "Almost makes me forget you're both trying to destroy my husband." Richard's expression hardened. "Your husband? You mean my thief?" Emily smirked. "Correction, your replacement. Cole doesn't need you anymore, Richard. And soon, neither will your daughter." Lauren stood, fury shaking through her. "What does that mean?" Emily smiled cruelly. "You think you're the victim, darling. Cole's already filed for emergency guardianship of the baby once it's born. Says you're mentally unstable, unfit to parent." Lauren froze. "He can't." "Oh, he can," Emily cut in. "And guess who provided the documentation? Your trusted lawyer, Nora Bennett." The room spun. Lauren's stomach twisted, the baby kicking violently inside her. "You're lying." "Am I?" Emily held up her phone, displaying a scanned affidavit signed by Nora. "Everything you've told her, every meltdown, every fear, it's all in there. Filed yesterday morning." Richard's fist slammed the table. "Get out." Emily only smiled wider. "Don't worry. You'll see it all in court." She turned to leave, her perfume lingering like poison. Lauren collapsed back into her chair, shaking. "She's bluffing, right?" Richard didn't answer. His silence was enough. Across the room, a waiter hesitated near the hallway mirror, pretending to polish silverware. When Emily passed, he slipped something from her purse, a flash drive, and tucked it into his pocket. His name tag read Daniel Alvarez. As Emily's heels clicked away, Richard whispered, "We'll fix this." "Shoo." Lauren wiped her tears, voice hoarse but steady. "No, Dad, I'll fix it." And far from the plaza, in a downtown office, Nora deleted an email chain, one that might prove she was playing both sides. 2 nights later, Manhattan pulsed with glamour. Cameras flashed along the crimson carpet outside the Midtown Grand Ballroom, where the city's wealthiest gathered under the glittering banner. Mercer Flow Foundation Charity Gala. Empowering women in tech. The irony nearly made Lauren laugh. Cole was throwing a charity event for women, the same man who had ruined her life and tried to take her unborn child. She watched from the back seat of her father's black Mercedes S-Class, parked discreetly across the street. Through the tinted window, she saw Cole step out of his own car, tuxedo sharp, Sienna Park on his arm. They posed effortlessly for the cameras, pretending to be the perfect power couple. Flashbulbs painted their smiles, white and hollow. Inside, Cole's voice filled the ballroom as he addressed the crowd. "We're building the future," he declared, holding Sienna's hand aloft like a trophy. "And it begins with integrity, innovation, and family." The hypocrisy tasted like poison. Lauren tightened her grip on her clutch. Inside it lay 2 flash drives, one from Ethan, containing proof of fraud, and one stolen by the waiter at the plaza, rumored to hold Emily's private correspondence. Grant had decoded it earlier that afternoon. The files revealed payments from Cole's offshore accounts directly to Emily's consulting firm. Richard's voice crackled in her earpiece. "You're sure about this?" "Yes," Lauren said, stepping out of the car. "If I stay silent now, he wins again." Her entrance caused a ripple. The photographers turned instantly, shouting her name. "Lauren Hayes, Mrs. Mercer. Is it true you're fighting for custody?" Lauren kept walking, eyes forward, every flash of light reflecting in her calm expression. Her black silk gown, simple, elegant, powerful, caught the chandeliers like armor. Inside the ballroom, conversations froze. Cole's smile faltered when he saw her. "What the hell is she doing here?" he hissed to Sienna. Sienna whispered, "She has something. I can feel it." Lauren walked to the center of the room, ignoring the whispers. "Don't stop on my account," she said, her voice steady but sharp enough to slice glass. "You were talking about integrity, weren't you, Cole?" Reporters' phones lifted instinctively. Cole forced a smile. "Lauren, it's a surprise to see you here." "I'm sure it is," she said, removing a small envelope from her clutch. "You forgot to invite me to the party celebrating my own stolen work." She turned toward the projection screen behind him. "You all might want to see what Mercer Flow calls innovation." Grant, stationed in the AV booth, hit play. The screen flickered, revealing confidential emails, fake financials, and video clips of Cole instructing staff to falsify data. Gasps rippled through the audience. Investors exchanged horrified looks. Reporters typed furiously. Cole lunged toward the stage, shouting, "Turn that off." But Lauren's voice cut through the chaos. "You said optics are everything. So here's how you look, Cole." Security swarmed the room, but it was too late. The footage had already gone live. Grant had streamed it directly to Hale Industries' verified social channel. Within minutes, every business outlet in New York picked up the feed. Sienna backed away slowly, realizing the empire she'd helped build was crumbling. Cole glared at her, betrayal twisting his face. "You knew about this?" She shook her head, terrified. "No." He shoved past her, but reporters blocked his path. Flashbulbs fired like gunshots. Lauren stood tall, the crowd's murmurs rising around her. For the first time since that night at the River Caf, she didn't feel small. Richard appeared beside her, calm and unshaken. "Smile," he murmured. "It's over." Lauren looked at the sea of faces, at Cole's fury, at Sienna's trembling hands, and finally at the cameras that once humiliated her. She smiled. Slow, poised, victorious. "Let this be the last time a man builds his success by breaking a woman," she said clearly into the mic. Applause erupted. Cameras surged forward. And as the lights flashed brighter, Lauren knew the entire city was finally watching the truth. And this time, it was Cole's turn to burn. The morning after the gala, the city felt different, as if the air itself had turned electric. Every news outlet ran the same headline: Mercer Flow fraud allegations explode during live gala. Stock tickers bled red across screens from Times Square to Wall Street. At Mercer Flow's Hudson Yards headquarters, tension hung like fog. Security guards whispered. Assistants avoided eye contact. Cole Mercer walked through the glass lobby with the fury of a man who'd lost control of his narrative. His phone buzzed non-stop. Investors, attorneys, reporters, all demanding answers. Inside the top-floor boardroom, Directors sat in grim silence. The once sleek space now felt like a courtroom. The skyline beyond the windows gleamed bright and merciless. Cole slammed his Mont Blanc pen against the table. The footage was doctored. Hale Industries staged this entire thing to sabotage the IPO. One director, a silver-haired woman named Deborah Wells, stared him down. "Are you saying those emails were fabricated?" Cole hesitated. "Taken out of context." Another director leaned forward. "You told staff to delete user data. You called it optimistic rounding. That wasn't context, that was fraud." The room went silent. Sienna sat at the far end of the table, pale and shaking. Her bracelet, the same Cartier he'd given her, now felt like a shackle. She avoided his eyes. "Miss Park," Deborah said coolly, "you were in charge of communications. Did you know these statements were false?" Sienna's throat bobbed. I only followed his instructions." Cole's glare cut through her. "Don't do this." But Sienna couldn't stop trembling. "He made me send them," she whispered. "He said we'd fix the numbers later." Gasps rippled around the table. Cole's jaw tightened. His empire was crumbling in real time. The door opened then, and in walked Richard Hale. Calm, poised, immaculate in a navy suit. Grant followed, carrying a sleek portfolio. Cole's voice dripped with venom. "You don't belong here." Richard smiled faintly. "On the contrary. I'm Mercerflow's largest creditor. This meeting is, in fact, mine." Murmurs erupted. Cole blinked in disbelief. "You what?" Grant set documents on the table. "Through various shell entities, Mr. Hale now holds controlling interest in your corporate debt. Which means this board answers to him." Deborah stood. "Then let's proceed with the motion on the table." Cole scoffed. "What motion?" She met his gaze squarely. "A motion to suspend you as CEO pending investigation." The vote was swift. Every hand but one rose. Even Sienna's. Cole looked around the room, stunned. "You're all cowards." Richard stepped closer, lowering his voice. "No, Cole. They're survivors. You turned them into liars and thieves to protect your ego. You built an empire on the bones of people who trusted you, including my daughter." For the first time, Cole's composure cracked. "She used me. You think she's innocent?" "She knew exactly what she was doing when she married me." Richard's eyes darkened. "She loved you when you were nothing. That's more than you ever deserved." "Sen." Cole lunged. But Grant intercepted him with quiet efficiency, pressing him back into his chair. The board members gathered their things, their verdict silent but absolute. As the room emptied, Cole's voice broke the silence. "You can't destroy me. I built this city's future." Richard leaned down, his voice razor-sharp. "Then it's poetic you'll watch it collapse from the same view you worshipped." When they left, the hallway buzzed with murmured congratulations. Reporters crowded near the elevators. Cameras flashed. Lauren waited there, dressed in black, her expression calm, not triumphant, but resolute. Cole froze when he saw her. "You think this makes you better than me?" She stepped closer, her words steady. "No. It just makes me free." He stared at her, hollow and shaking, as security escorted him out of his own company. And from her place by the glass wall, Lauren finally saw the skyline not as a cage, but as the horizon of her second life. By sunrise, Park Avenue was lined with cameras, microphones, and news vans like a war zone of flashing lenses. Hale Industries headquarters stood gleaming and silent above them, waiting. For decades, the building had symbolized corporate control. Today, it would host the public unmasking of Mercerflow. Lauren watched from the green room as reporters gathered beyond the glass. Her reflection in the mirror startled her. Calm eyes, polished hair, the quiet armor of a woman who had already lived through fire. Grant adjusted her microphone. "You don't have to do this," he murmured. "Yes, I do," she said. "I let him control the story once. Never again." Richard entered then, freshly pressed in a dark navy suit, flanked by attorneys. He placed a hand on Lauren's shoulder. "Whatever happens out there, remember, you're not his victim anymore. You're the evidence." 1. Lauren nodded, clutching the small pendant at her neck, a silver charm shaped like a heartbeat, a gift from her mother long ago. She drew in a breath as the stage manager called, "We're live in 60 seconds." When they stepped onto the platform, the air outside snapped with flashes. Reporters shouted over each other, voices colliding in chaos. Lauren's heartbeat pounded, but her voice when she began was steady. "Good morning. My name is Lauren Hayes. For months, I have remained silent while Mercer Flow's CEO, Cole Mercer, fabricated numbers, manipulated the press, and attempted to discredit me as unstable. Today, the truth speaks louder. Behind her, screens lit up with the same footage shown at the gala, falsified financials, voice recordings, and the whistleblower's testimony. Each frame hit like a drumbeat of justice. Lauren continued, "I did not want revenge. I wanted accountability. Women in this industry, and in every industry, deserve to know that silence is not survival." The crowd hushed. For the first time, the flashes slowed, as if the world needed to listen. Richard took the microphone next. "My daughter's courage brought the truth forward. As of this morning, Hale Industries has assumed Mercer Flow's debt portfolio and filed for a full audit with federal regulators." Gasps rippled through the press pit. The Wall Street Journal reporter scribbled furiously. CNBC went live mid-sentence. One journalist called out, "Mr. Hale, is it true you're seeking criminal charges?" Richard's gaze sharpened. "When a man steals billions and hides behind corporate jargon, that's not business, it's betrayal. The law will decide the rest." Lauren glanced at him. For all his flaws, in this moment he wasn't the cold mogul she remembered. He was a father, finally standing beside her, not above her. Another hand shot up. "Lauren, what do you say to those who accuse you of orchestrating this as revenge?" She didn't hesitate. "Revenge is easy. Healing isn't. I chose the harder one." Applause rose from the back rows, quiet at first, then swelling. As the press conference ended, Richard guided her off stage. "You were perfect," he said softly. But before she could respond, Grant approached, face pale. "We have a problem." "What kind of problem?" Richard asked. Grant lowered his voice. "Cole just went live." "Well." He held up his tablet, Cole on a rival network, sitting across from a news anchor, smiling like a wolf. "They're lying," Cole said smoothly. "This is a coordinated smear campaign. Lauren has a documented history of emotional instability. She's exploiting pregnancy sympathy to destroy me." Lauren's stomach dropped. "He's not done." Grant nodded grimly. "He still has leverage. Those recordings Ethan mentioned, the ones labeled LH. He's threatening to release them. "W." Richard clenched his jaw. "Let him try." Lauren shook her head, voice low but fierce. "No, I'll handle it." She stepped outside into the sunlight where cameras still flickered. For the first time, she didn't flinch. The wind off Park Avenue lifted her hair like a banner. And far away in a darkened studio, Cole smirked into the camera and whispered to his producer, "Let's remind the world who she really is." The following morning, the entire country seemed to wake up divided. Talk shows, podcasts, and business news couldn't stop replaying two opposing clips. Lauren's poised press conference versus Cole's smooth denial. Twitter trended number Team Lauren and number Team Cole in equal measure. Everyone had an opinion, but nobody had the truth. At Hale Industries, Richard's staff scrambled to contain the media chaos. "He's outmaneuvering us in the press," Grant warned, pacing beside the long glass wall of the strategy suite. "Cole's painting her as a manipulative social climber. He's feeding them edited voice notes, little pieces of conversations to make her sound unstable." Lauren stood in silence near the window, arms folded over her growing belly. "Those recordings," she said quietly. "They're the ones Ethan mentioned." "Yes," Grant replied. "And he's only released fragments. He's holding the rest hostage." Richard looked up from his tablet. "What does he want?" Grant hesitated. "Public retraction. He wants Lauren to issue a statement admitting she misinterpreted events and withdraw the audit motion. In exchange, he'll destroy the files." Lauren almost laughed. "He humiliates me, lies to the world, and now he wants my silence wrapped as apology." Richard's tone was razor-sharp. "He's desperate. That means he's cornered." But Lauren shook her head. "No, he's confident, because he still has something I don't." Grant frowned. "What's that?" "The final recording," she said softly. "The one labeled LH. That's his last bullet. We find it, and he's finished. An uneasy quiet filled the room until Nora entered, face pale but determined. I might know where it is. Richard's eyes narrowed. And why am I just hearing this? Because I wasn't sure until this morning. Nora set a folder on the table. Before the gala, Cole's cloud access was routed through a third-party storage company, Vertisync. They back up encrypted files off-site in New Jersey. I pulled the metadata from his old emails. The LH folder is scheduled for deletion in 72 hours. Grant's jaw dropped. If we get to it first, Lauren met his gaze. Then we own the truth. Richard nodded. I'll authorize a court order. Nora shook her head. There's no time. Cole's already bribed their data team. We can't go through legal channels. Then we don't, Lauren said. We go ourselves. You and I too. That evening, under the cover of fading daylight, Grant drove a nondescript gray SUV out of Manhattan with Lauren and Nora in the back. The highway hummed beneath them, headlights streaking through drizzle. Are you sure you can trust Nora? Grant asked quietly. Lauren glanced at her old friend, who sat staring out the window. I have to, she said. She's risked too much already. Nora turned slightly. I was a coward, Lauren. Cole paid me once to make you doubt yourself. I took the money, and I've hated myself every day since. Tonight, I fix that. The car turned off onto a dark industrial road. The Vertisync building loomed ahead, small and anonymous, its metal siding glowing under the floodlights. Inside, Nora's security clearance, a relic from her corporate days, granted them temporary access. They slipped through quiet corridors to the server room humming with the sound of spinning drives. There, Nora whispered, pointing to a workstation. System B should see. Grant began copying files while Lauren watched the progress bar crawl across the screen. 38%, 59-81. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the room. A guard's voice echoed from the hall. Who's in there? Grant yanked the flash drive free. Go. They sprinted down the corridor as footsteps thundered behind them. Lauren's heart raced. Her hands clutched the file to her chest like oxygen. They burst through an emergency exit into the night just as security lights flared behind them. Grant tossed the drive to Lauren before pushing her toward the car. You hold it. It's your story now. As they sped back toward Manhattan, Lauren stared at the small black flash drive gleaming in her palm, proof of every lie, every manipulation, every recorded moment Cole thought would destroy her. She exhaled, a trembling smile breaking through. He wanted a war, she whispered. Now he's got one. And miles away, in a dark penthouse, Cole watched the security feed flicker off, a cold smile curving his lips. She took the bait. By dawn, the city was whispering again, but this time, not about Cole. Hale Industries' trading floor buzzed with rumors. Richard Hale's alive? Back in control? Screens across Wall Street glowed with one breaking headline. Hale Industries' CEO to address market in emergency broadcast. When Lauren arrived at the penthouse still wearing last night's clothes, the stolen flash drive gripped in her hand. She hadn't slept, hadn't eaten. Adrenaline was the only thing keeping her upright. Grant and Nora were already waiting, faces drawn with exhaustion. Richard stepped out of his study, immaculate in a charcoal suit. His calm was unnerving. You got it? Lauren nodded, handing him the flash drive. Every file labeled LH. It's all there. Show. He turned it in his hand thoughtfully, as if weighing more than evidence, weighing vengeance. Grant connected it to the projector. The first file opened with static. Then Cole's voice, laughing, arrogant. Lauren thinks she's clever. She'll talk. She always does. Let her. No one believes women like her for long. Lauren froze. The second clip played audio from their anniversary dinner, recorded without her knowing. Cole's tone was cruel, deliberate. Pregnant or not, she's a liability. The sooner she signs, the cleaner the IPO. Silence fell. Richard's jaw locked. He recorded you like an asset, he muttered. Lauren's voice cracked. He wanted proof that I'd break. Nora spoke softly. Then let's use it to prove he's the monster he is. Richard looked up. No, we'll use it to end him. He turned to Grant. Prepare the live broadcast feed for 9 a.m. I'm taking the file public. Lauren blinked. You're going live? That could destroy Mercerflow entirely. Me. That's the point, he said. By 8:45, the Hale Industries press floor looked like a television studio. Reporters filled the atrium. Technicians adjusted lights. The city beyond the windows was bathed in pale gold. At exactly 9, Richard stepped onto the stage. The broadcast opened across CNBC, Bloomberg, and every major outlet simultaneously. "Good morning," he began, voice steady. "I am Richard Hale, returning to address not only this market, but this country's conscience. Win.o." He gestured to the large screen behind him. In recent months, Mercerflow, a company built on deceit, manipulated investors, employees, and the public. This deception was not a mistake. It was a calculated effort by CEO Cole Mercer. He pressed a button on the podium. Cole's recordings filled the room. His own voice, his cruelty, his contempt. Every sentence echoed like a confession carved in steel. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Headlines began to roll in real time. Mercer exposed in live broadcast. Cole Mercer caught admitting fraud, manipulation. Back in his penthouse, Cole saw it unfold on his 80-inch screen. His face turned to ash. He shouted at Sienna, "Turn it off, cut the feed." But it was too late. The internet had already devoured him. In the newsroom, Richard concluded, "This is not just about money. It's about restoring what was stolen truth." He stepped back, handing the microphone to Lauren. She swallowed hard. "I once thought silence kept me safe. But silence protects the wrong people. I'm done being silent." The applause was immediate, thunderous, unrestrained. As the broadcast ended, Richard turned to her quietly. "You did it." But before she could respond, Grant's phone buzzed, his face drained of color. "Sir, Cole's on the move." His jet filed emergency clearance out of Teterboro. Destination unknown. Lauren's heart slammed. "He's running." "Well." Richard looked toward the city skyline, eyes narrowing. "No, he's not running. He's regrouping." Outside, the morning sun caught the glass towers, reflecting fire and gold. Manhattan looked beautiful and dangerous again. Far above it all, aboard his private jet, Cole poured himself whiskey and whispered into his phone, "She thinks she's won. Let's see how she handles losing everything again." 3 days later, the storm hit its final stage, not with thunder, but with subpoenas. Manhattan's Supreme Court building was surrounded by reporters and camera crews before dawn. The air outside crackled with tension. Inside, the marble halls felt colder than stone. Lauren sat at the plaintiff's table, hands clasped tightly in her lap. She wore a navy maternity dress that softened nothing about her resolve. Across the aisle, Cole sat flanked by his attorneys, a wall of gray suits and arrogance. His once perfect hair was slicked back, his eyes hollow but still defiant. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair and tired patience, called the session to order. Case 23-141. Hale versus Mercerflow Technologies. Et. Ali.ilii.ii. Cole's lawyer, a smooth-talking shark named Victor Ames, rose first. "Your Honor, my client is the victim of an orchestrated smear campaign. The so-called recordings presented by the plaintiff were illegally obtained. We request immediate dismissal." Richard Hale's attorney, Grant, now acting as corporate counsel, stood. The recordings were taken from Mercerflow's own servers, under subpoena. "There's no smear campaign, just accountability." Victor smirked. A billionaire father pulling strings for his daughter. Classic. Lauren's voice, calm but sharp, broke through. "You think a father protecting his daughter is corruption? Try living what he's protecting her from." Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. The judge raised a brow. "Mrs. Mercer, you will speak only when addressed." Laura nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." But her eyes never left Cole. Then Victor played his next card. "Your Honor, we'd like to submit additional evidence. A series of private recordings that show Mrs. Mercer in emotional distress, discussing her intent to destroy my client's company." The courtroom gasped. Cole's smirk returned. Grant whispered to Lauren, "He's bluffing." The judge motioned. "Proceed." The first clip played Lauren's voice, crying, desperate. "He's going to ruin me. I'll make sure he regrets ever touching my life." The courtroom shifted, uncomfortable. Victor leaned on the podium. Hardly the words of a victim. Lauren's heart pounded. She remembered that night alone in her car, terrified, talking to herself after Cole froze her accounts. But the recording sounded worse without context. Then, a second voice filled the room, Sienna's. "Don't worry, I'm recording this. If he hurts you again, we'll have proof." Victor's smile faltered. That wasn't part of his plan. Grant's eyes widened. "Wait, keep playing." The next section revealed Sienna speaking again, this time privately. "Cole, she's breaking down. Maybe we should back off." Cole's reply came cold. "No. She's bait. People like her always destroy themselves." Silence. The courtroom froze as the defense realized their own evidence had buried them. Lauren turned slowly to look at Cole. His face was ashen. Grant stepped forward. "Your Honor, these recordings, provided by the defense, confirm psychological abuse, corporate manipulation, and defamation. We move to include them under the full scope of the fraud investigation." The judge nodded, impressed despite herself. Motion granted. Cole's lawyer sputtered. "Objection. This is entrapment." Overruled, the judge snapped. "Mr. Mercer, you may want to consult new counsel." Cole shot to his feet. "You think this ends me? I built everything." Lauren stood, voice rising above the chaos. "And you destroyed everyone who helped you. Now, it's your turn." The judge's gavel struck. "Order, Mr. Mercer, sit down or I will have you removed." Reporters scribbled furiously as the court clerk whispered to the judge. She nodded once, then said, "Per new federal filings, the Securities and Exchange Commission has issued criminal indictments. Mr. Mercer, you are under investigation for securities fraud, perjury, and witness tampering." Cole froze, the color draining from his face. Lauren watched, breathing slow, steady. "That's not revenge, Cole," she said softly. "That's consequence." Security moved in, guiding him toward the side exit as cameras clicked. And in the hallway, Nora waited with Sienna, both women holding the same look of quiet vindication as the man who once owned them was finally led away in handcuffs. Rain fell over Manhattan like a cleansing storm the morning after the court hearing. News anchors couldn't stop replaying the footage. Cole Mercer, once the Golden CEO, being led away in handcuffs. But Lauren knew the fight wasn't truly over. Not yet. She stood by the window of her father's penthouse, watching the gray clouds drift over Central Park. For the first time in months, she could breathe. But the air still carried the taste of unfinished business. Grant entered, holding a tablet. The SEC froze Mercerflow's assets overnight. Most of the investors are walking away. "When?" "Most," Lauren asked. "One's holding out, Horizon Capital. They claim they never saw proof that Cole falsified the second quarter data. Without that tape, they might still defend him." Lauren frowned. "Then we find the tape." Grant hesitated. "That's the problem. The last backup drive disappeared. Ethan swears he didn't delete it." "Then someone did," she said quietly. At that moment, Nora entered the room, pale and drenched from the rain. "I think I know who has it." "Two." Grant crossed his arms. "And why do you look like you've been running from someone?" Nora exhaled shakily. "Because I have. Sienna called me this morning. She wants to talk." Lauren's heart tensed. "After everything? Why?" "She says she has something. The original recording Cole used to blackmail her. The one that proves he manipulated data and staff." Richard, seated at his desk, looked up sharply. "Why give it to us now?" Nora's voice dropped. "Because she's dying, Richard. Stage 4 cancer. She found out last month." The room fell silent. Lauren whispered, "Where is she?" "Somewhere no one would think to look," Nora replied. "Her sister runs a flower shop in Brooklyn Heights. Sienna's been hiding in the apartment above it." Lauren didn't wait for permission. "I'm going." 2 hours later, she and Grant arrived at the shop, a quiet corner filled with lilies and faint piano music. Upstairs, Sienna sat wrapped in a gray blanket, her once glossy hair thin, her eyes tired but alert. "I wondered if you'd come," Sienna said weakly. "I'm not your favorite person, I know." Lauren sat across from her. "You helped ruin my life, but you also helped save it. That makes us even." Sienna gave a small, broken smile. Cole made me believe I mattered. When I realized I didn't, it was already too late. Grant stepped forward. You said you had something. Send. Sienna nodded and reached for a small tin box on the table. Inside was an old-fashioned voice recorder. He made me carry this everywhere, said it was for safety. But he didn't know I kept a second one. It recorded everything, even his private meetings with investors. She pressed play. Cole's voice filled the room. Confident, mocking, unmistakable. Inflate the numbers. The investors want fantasy, not reality. If anyone leaks this, we bury them. Start with Hale's girl. Then silence, followed by Sienna's trembling whisper on the tape. You said she's pregnant. Cole laughed coldly. Perfect optics. A helpless mother, sympathy sells. Lauren's eyes filled with tears. He used my pregnancy as a marketing tactic. Sienna's hand shook as she passed the recorder to Grant. Now you have everything. Don't waste it. Grant pocketed the device gently. You're brave for doing this. Sienna laughed softly. Brave? No. I just don't want to die carrying his lies. 1. Lauren leaned forward, gripping her hand. You won't be forgotten. Sienna's eyes softened. Then make sure he is. Outside, the rain slowed to a drizzle. As Lauren and Grant left the shop, she looked back through the glass. Sienna, fragile, but finally free, arranging a single white lily in a vase. By nightfall, the tape had already reached every major news outlet, and Cole Mercer's final illusion began to unravel before the entire world. Monday morning arrived like Judgment Day. By 9 a.m., every screen in Times Square blazed with one headline: The Mercer tapes, full audio, confirms fraud, manipulation, exploitation. Clips of Cole's voice spread faster than wildfire. His sneers, his admissions, his laughter about a pregnant liability. The market reacted instantly. Mercer Flow stock plummeted 30% in 1 hour. Trading halted twice before the SEC froze the ticker entirely. Investors called it the fastest corporate implosion in recent memory. Paseo. In his penthouse overlooking the Hudson, Cole Mercer paced like a trapped animal. His tie hung loose, eyes bloodshot, a tumbler of whiskey clutched in his hand. CNN played on the giant flat screen. Richard Hale's calm interview replaying on loop. Cole hurled the glass at the wall. It shattered, amber spilling down the marble like blood. They think it's over, he muttered. They think they've won. From the corner, a quiet voice answered, It is over, Cole. Yes. Sienna's younger sister, Mina, stood by the door, pale, shaking, holding a printed subpoena. The police came by your office. You're supposed to surrender by noon. He laughed bitterly. Tell them I'm busy. Mina flinched. She trusted you, you know. My sister. She gave you everything. Cole's expression darkened. She gave me weakness. Don't make her mistake. He turned away, but something in Mina's eyes made him pause. A flicker of quiet defiance. I already didn't, she said, before leaving the penthouse. An hour later, Lauren watched the chaos unfold from the Hale Industries conference room. She wasn't celebrating. She just sat still, hand resting on her belly, feeling the baby's rhythmic kicks against her palm. Grant entered with coffee. The tape did it. SEC filed full charges this morning. Cole's facing 20 years minimum. Lauren's eyes met his. Is Sienna okay? Grant hesitated. She passed last night, peacefully. Van? Lauren closed her eyes. A tear slid down her cheek. Not from grief, but from the strange mixture of sadness and relief that only survivors understand. Then she kept her promise, she whispered. Outside, the sound of phone alerts and breaking news filled the air. Richard walked in, a rare softness in his voice. The empire that hurt you has burned. You've done what no board or regulator ever could. Lauren gave a small, weary smile. I didn't burn it. I just stopped letting him light fires under me. Across the city, Cole stumbled into Mercer Flow's headquarters, the place that once carried his name, now stripped of dignity. The lobby monitors were looping one final company announcement. Effective immediately, Mercer Flow Technologies enters federal receivership under Hale Holdings. Security met him at the entrance. You're not authorized to enter, sir. He shoved past them, breath ragged. This is my building. 1. The head guard, expression flat, replied, "Not anymore." In the glass reflection of the revolving door, Cole caught sight of himself, unshaven, hollow-eyed, stripped of every illusion. Behind him, the Mercer Flow logo flickered and went dark. By afternoon, a viral livestream captured what the city would later call the collapse in real time. Cole, standing alone outside the building, shouting at cameras, denied everything. "They doctored evidence. She's a liar. I made her." The crowd booed. Someone threw a coffee cup. Others just stared, silent, recording, witnessing his unraveling. At that same moment, Lauren sat in her father's office, watching the feed. The baby kicked again, gentle but certain, as if answering the chaos. She whispered, "You see that, little one? That's what truth does." Richard glanced at her, proud but quiet. "The storm's passing," he said. Lauren looked out toward the skyline. "No," she said softly. "It's clearing. See." And across Manhattan, as the last of Cole Mercer's empire crumbled into headlines, a soft rain began to fall, not furious this time, but cleansing, washing the city clean of his name. A week after Cole's public collapse, Manhattan exhaled. The city that once whispered his name now spoke it with disgust. News vans vanished from Park Avenue. Mercer Flow's signs came down. Its headquarters, once a monument to ego, now stood dark, stripped of employees, stripped of meaning. But inside the Hale Industries building, the lights stayed on, not for revenge, but for rebuilding. Lauren walked through the open-floor office that now housed the displaced Mercer Flow staff. Rows of tired faces looked up from their screens, designers, engineers, accountants, people who had been caught in Cole's web and left without jobs overnight. Most of them didn't know what he was doing, Grant said quietly as he walked beside her. They just wanted to keep their paychecks. 2BL. Lauren stopped at a desk where a young woman was packing boxes. "You worked for him?" The woman nodded nervously. "I was on his comms team. When I saw the news, I thought I'd never work again." Lauren smiled gently. "Then work for me instead." The woman blinked. "What?" "We're rebuilding a new startup division under Hale Industries. Transparent, ethical, employee-owned. You deserve better." Word spread quickly. Dozens of former Mercer Flow employees gathered around, their faces a mix of disbelief and hope. Richard watched from the glass balcony above, his expression unreadable. Grant joined him. "She's doing it her way," he said softly. Richard nodded. "As she should. The world needs her version of leadership." Down below, Lauren's voice carried through the room. "We were all part of his story once. Now we write our own. If you want to stay, stay. If not, walk out proud. No one here will ever call you weak again." The room erupted in quiet applause. Some cried. Some simply nodded, as though hearing a language they'd forgotten existed. Dignity. Later that afternoon, Lauren stood by the window in her new office, sipping tea instead of coffee. The skyline shimmered beneath a gentle sunset, golden light spilling across glass towers. For the first time, she didn't feel like a ghost in her own city. Nora entered, holding a stack of signed settlements. "It's done. The employees get severance, Cole's assets are liquidated, and Sienna's sister received her donation." Lauren smiled softly. "Good. She deserves peace." Nora hesitated before asking, "And you? What do you deserve?" Lauren turned toward the skyline. "A life that isn't defined by him." Grant walked in a moment later, loosening his tie. "Press wants another interview. You're the face of redemption now." Lauren laughed quietly. "Redemption? No. I just survived." "Say." He leaned on the doorway, studying her. "You did more than survive, Lauren. You changed the game." Their eyes met. A moment of quiet understanding that had been building since the night they escaped the Hamptons. It wasn't romantic yet, not exactly, but it was something deeper. Safety, respect, possibility. Richard appeared, interrupting the silence. "Dinner at the River Caf tonight. The same table. You, me, Grant. It's time we close the circle." Lauren hesitated, then nodded. "All right." That night, as the skyline glowed across the East River, she returned to the place where it had all shattered. The same view. The same bridge. But now, everything was different. Richard raised a glass. To truth. Grant added, to rebuilding. Lauren smiled, feeling her baby kick softly beneath her palm. To beginning again. Outside, camera flashes still sparkled faintly on the bridge. Tourists. Not paparazzi this time. The city felt alive, awake, unafraid. Lauren leaned back, breathing in the river air. The trauma hadn't vanished, but it no longer owned her. The past had been exposed, the future was hers to build. And somewhere deep in her heart, a quiet voice whispered, not vengeance, not triumph, but peace. Finally, peace. 3 months later, the courtroom felt different. It wasn't a battlefield anymore. It was the finish line. The crowd was smaller, quieter, filled mostly with reporters and a few former employees seeking closure. Lauren sat at the plaintiff's table beside Grant, her posture calm but unyielding. She was 8 months pregnant now, her hands resting protectively over her belly. Every movement was slower, more deliberate, but her eyes were steady. Cole Mercer, escorted by federal marshals, looked nothing like the man who once ruled over boardrooms. His suit hung loose. His arrogance had turned to exhaustion. The silver cuffs around his wrists gleamed under the fluorescent lights, his last luxury. The judge entered, adjusting her glasses as she reviewed the stack of documents before her. Case 23-141 reconvenes. Today's hearing addresses final settlements, asset division, and custodial petitions. Lauren's breath hitched slightly at that last word, custody. Even after everything, Cole had refused to drop his petition for the unborn child. Grant leaned close. Don't worry, he's grasping at smoke. The judge looked up. Mr. Mercer, your counsel will speak first. Boo. Cole's lawyer, a new face hired out of desperation, stood. Your Honor, my client wishes to assert parental rights. Despite recent charges, he maintains the desire to be part of his child's life. A ripple of disbelief ran through the courtroom. Lauren said nothing, but her jaw tightened. Grant rose calmly. Your Honor, my client has already demonstrated his definition of parenthood, deceit, manipulation, and cruelty. She isn't denying him biology. She's protecting her child from harm. P. The judge nodded slowly. The evidence against Mr. Mercer remains substantial. SEC indictments are pending. Fraud and emotional abuse have been proven. However, I will allow closing statements. Cole stood, looking directly at Lauren. His voice was low, broken, but the venom still lingered underneath. You think this makes you better? You took everything. My company, my reputation, my life. All I ever wanted was control. Lauren met his stare. Exactly. That's all you ever wanted. Not love, not truth. Just control. The judge raised her hand. Enough. She flipped through the documents. The court rules in favor of Mrs. Mercer. Full custody and financial protection are granted. In addition, restitution of intellectual property rights will be transferred to her under Hale Holdings. Mr. Mercer's remaining assets are to be liquidated to satisfy penalties and employee settlements. Cole's lawyer tried to object, but the gavel came down hard. This matter is closed. A heavy silence filled the room. Reporters scribbled in hushed awe. Richard Hale exhaled deeply from the gallery, his expression proud but somber. Cole turned to Lauren one last time, his voice hoarse. You think you've won? You'll always remember me. Lauren stood, her tone quiet but final. Maybe. But I'll remember what you taught me, never to beg for the truth again. The marshals led him away. He didn't resist. For the first time, he looked small, not humbled, but hollowed out by his own arrogance. Afterward, outside the courthouse, the fall sunlight glowed warm on the steps. Cameras flashed, but Lauren didn't shy away. Reporters called her name, asking for comment. She spoke clearly, her words measured and graceful. Justice isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming peace. For every woman who's been silenced, this was for you. Applause rippled through the crowd, soft but heartfelt. Grant joined her, offering an umbrella as the first drops of autumn rain began to fall. Richard followed behind, his voice low. You did what I couldn't do years ago. You faced the world and didn't flinch. Lauren smiled faintly. Maybe I just finally learned what strength really means. They walked down the courthouse steps together, the city's roar blending with the rain. Each drop felt like closure, like cleansing. And miles away, in a federal holding cell, Cole Mercer stared at the gray wall, the sound of his own breathing the only empire he had left. 6 months later, spring arrived in New York with soft light and second chances. Central Park bloomed again, cherry blossoms drifting like confetti over the walking paths. The air smelled of coffee, rain, and something gentler than before. Inside a brownstone apartment on the Upper West Side, Lauren stood by the window, rocking her newborn daughter in her arms. The baby's name was Hope. It had felt right, simple, honest, untouched by the world's cruelty. Morning sunlight touched the baby's face. She yawned, tiny fingers curling around the silver bracelet that once belonged to Sienna, the woman who had paid for redemption with truth. Lauren kissed her daughter's forehead and whispered, "You'll grow up knowing love, not power." Jinda. The knock on the door came softly. Richard entered, holding a bag of groceries from the corner market. Not the kind of errand a billionaire used to run, but one he insisted on now. "She's awake already?" he asked, smiling. "Barely," Lauren said. "You're up early too." He shrugged, setting down a carton of milk and a bouquet of white lilies. "Old habits. I used to get up to chase markets. Now I get up to chase my granddaughter's smile." Lauren laughed quietly. "You're different, Dad." Sen. He looked around the apartment, modest, warm, filled with books and sunlight. "So are you," he said. "You built this life with your own hands. No spotlight, no boardroom, just peace." For a long moment, neither spoke. The city outside hummed with normal life. Taxis honking, children shouting near the park. It felt like a song Lauren finally knew how to dance to. The doorbell rang again. This time, it was Grant. He carried coffee and files but looked more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. "The final settlement's cleared," he said, setting the papers on the table. "The employees are officially shareholders of the new Hale Collective. They voted to name you CEO. Lauren blinked. "Me?" Richard chuckled. "Of course. You rebuilt what we all broke." Grant handed her the folder. "It's a different kind of company, transparent, employee-owned, eco-driven. You'll love it." Lauren smiled, but hesitated. "I said I was done with boardrooms." Grant looked at her gently. "Then make this one different." Their eyes met. The same quiet connection that had been growing between them since the chaos ended. There was no rush, no performance, just the quiet understanding of two people who had walked through ruin and come out clean. "I'll think about it," Lauren said softly. Richard grinned, gathering his coat. "You two can think about it over dinner. I have a date with Hope's nap schedule." He took the baby from her arms with surprising tenderness. "I'll watch her. Go breathe, Lauren." Outside, the city shimmered under afternoon light. Grant and Lauren walked side by side through Central Park. Birds darted between trees, their shadows chasing sunlight. The skyline loomed ahead, not as something to conquer, but as something to simply exist beneath. Grant broke the silence first. "You ever think about what would have happened if Cole hadn't fallen?" Lauren nodded slowly. "All the time. I probably would have spent my life apologizing for his choices." "And now?" She smiled. "Now I don't apologize for surviving." They stopped near the bridge overlooking the lake, the same one visible from the River Calf. The memory of that awful night flashed briefly, then softened into something distant, almost forgiven. Grant turned to her, his voice low. "You know, I think he hated you because you had something he never could." Lauren raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "Grace," he said simply. She looked away, blinking back tears. Grace took a long time to find. He reached out, not forceful, just steady, his hand brushing hers. "You found it anyway." As the sun dipped below the skyline, she took his hand. For the first time, it didn't feel like a beginning born from pain. It felt like life, ordinary, good, real. Far above them, the city lights flickered on one by one, like quiet applause for survival. And in that golden hour, with Hope's laughter echoing faintly through the city, Lauren Hayes finally had everything she had fought for: freedom, family, and a future that no one could take away again. So, that's how the story ends. And if you're still here with us right now, it means something in this journey touched your heart in its own quiet way, doesn't it? Maybe it's because, deep down, we've all been where Lauren was broken, betrayed, trying to rebuild something real from the ruins. This story isn't just about revenge or justice. It's about healing, about finding peace after chaos. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." And that's what Lauren learned, that peace isn't something the world gives you. It's something you choose, one brave decision at a time. Life will hurt you, sometimes deeply. But as the Stoics believed, it's not what happens to us that defines us, but how we respond. We can turn pain into wisdom, failure into fuel, and heartbreak into rebirth. So if this story reminded you of your own strength, your own quiet comeback, don't keep that feeling to yourself. Tap that like button, share this story with someone who needs it tonight, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Because sometimes, stories heal us more than we realize. And you, yes, you, are part of that healing too.